Evelyn Lancaster, the formidable matriarch of the Lancaster Empire, is sick of gold diggers swarming around her charming but clueless son, Julian. Desperate to find someone who truly loves Julian for who he is not his billions, Evelyn hatches a wild plan. She'll go undercover as a sweet, eccentric old lady named Edie, applying for a live-in housekeeper job at one of Julian's charity projects. There, she meets Lila Monroe, a spirited, overworked nurse with a sarcastic wit and zero patience for snobs. She's been volunteering at the community clinic, balancing night shifts and caring for her little brother, Caleb. Her view on rich people? Not great. Especially after a humiliating incident with Julian Lancaster himself, whom she unknowingly insulted without realizing his identity. As Edie, Evelyn watches the sparks fly, though not the romantic kind. Lila and Julian constantly clash. She calls him Sir Golden Spoon, and he calls her Hurricane Lila. But beneath the banter, there's a growing mutual respect. Lila challenges Julian to see beyond his wealth, and Julian begins to rediscover the world outside his penthouse bubble. "I trusted you," Lila said quietly, her voice shaking. "Both of you," Julian tried to explain, but his words came out tangled, awkward, and defensive. "I didn't know my mother was doing this. And I never lied to you. Oh no. You let me think you were some rich jerk who didn't care. You never told me who you were. You hated me either way," Julian snapped. "So what difference did it make?" That hurt. More than she expected. Julian barely spoke to her. And Lila, fiery, funny, genuine Lila, was gone. Maybe this had all been a mistake. But then she remembered the way Julian laughed with Lila. How he opened up about his late father for the first time in years. How alive he had seemed when Lila was around. No. Evelyn Lancaster had never backed down from anything in her life, and she wasn't going to start now. She wandered into the solarium, where Mr. Hensley once teased her about overwatering her orchids. The plants were wilting now, much like her relationships. "Enough," she muttered. She crossed to her antique writing desk, flipped open her tablet, and began typing. Emails. Messages. Appointments. She contacted the Lancaster Foundation Board to approve a sudden donation to the clinic's expansion project, anonymous, of course. Then, she messaged her personal assistant. "Find out when Lila Monroe's next shift is. And don't let her know it's me asking." Next, she stared at her contacts. Her thumb hovered over Mr. Hensley's name. No, not yet. She wasn't done fixing the mess she made. Evelyn stood, hands clasped behind her back, staring out the tall windows at the sprawling garden. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like a puppet master. 2 days later, Evelyn strolled into the clinic, not as Edie, not as Evelyn Lancaster, the billionaire, but somewhere in between. A soft gray blazer. Minimal makeup. No assistant. Just her. She found Lila outside in the break area, sipping from a paper cup, eyes tired. Lila looked up and froze. "I'm not here to lie. Or manipulate," Evelyn said gently. "I'm here because I made a mistake. Several, in fact." Lila didn't speak, but she didn't walk away either. "I wanted to protect my son. And in doing so, I disrespected you. I treated your life like a puzzle to solve. That was wrong. You deserve more than an apology, Lila, but I'm going to start with one anyway." There was a long silence. Then Lila tilted her head. "You practiced that, didn't you?" Evelyn let out a breath. 4 times. In the car. A reluctant smile tugged at Lila's mouth. "At least you didn't bring cupcakes." "Oh, I did. They're in the lobby." Lila laughed, really laughed, for the first time in days. 2 weeks later, Lila was finishing her shift at the clinic when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "I signed up for the free blood pressure screenings. Figured I'd start taking better care of my heart." She turned to find Julian, looking completely out of place in a wrinkled t-shirt and holding a bag of Chinese takeout. "I didn't come here to apologize," he said. "Okay, maybe a little. But mostly, I came to fight for us. I'm not a prince. I'm not perfect. I don't even know how to use a dishwasher. But I know I want you. With your sarcasm. With your heart. With everything." Lila stared at him, arms crossed. "And you brought food. General Tso's and dumplings. I remembered they're your comfort food." Lila tried not to smile. She really did. But the sight of Julian, awkwardly shifting from foot to foot, clutching the greasy takeout bag like it was a peace offering wrapped in a red paper bag, made it nearly impossible. "You look ridiculous," she said, biting back a grin. Julian exhaled in relief. "I was going for endearingly sincere, but I'll take ridiculous if it gets me 5 more minutes." Lila rolled her eyes but motioned toward the break room with a jerk of her head. "Come on. Before someone mistakes you for a lost delivery guy." Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Julian set the bag down on the tiny round table. Lila sat across from him, arms still folded, as he pulled out the containers and arranged them like he was trying to summon forgiveness through symmetry. "I rehearsed this 100 times, he admitted, opening the dumplings. "But everything sounded cheesy, or like a rom-com line." "Because it kind of is a rom-com moment," she said, reaching for a dumpling despite herself. The brooding ex shows up with food and a speech. He looked sheepish. "I'm more of a panic attacks in parking lots kind of guy than brooding. But yeah, I'm here because I miss you. And I screwed up. I pushed you away when I should have just let you in." Lila chewed in silence, the flavors familiar, comforting. Her heart was thudding too loud for such a quiet room. "I got scared too," she admitted, not quite looking at him. "I mean, we were moving fast. And then when you pulled back, I thought maybe you realized I wasn't worth the risk." Julian's brow furrowed. "Lila, you were the risk. The good kind. The kind that makes all the bad ones worth it. I just didn't know how to be in something real. Not until I lost it." Her eyes finally met his, and something shifted, years of walls, sarcasm, and half-healed wounds cracking just a little. "I'm still mad at you," she said. "Good," he replied. "That means I've got work to do. And I will. I'll earn you if you let me." A long beat. Then Lila sighed. "You can start by figuring out how to use a dishwasher." Julian grinned, his shoulders relaxing for the first time since he walked in. "Deal. But only if you show me where the detergent goes." She rolled her eyes again, but this time, the smile broke through. "You're such a disaster. And you love disasters," he said, nudging the box of General Tso's toward her. "Especially when they come with dumplings." She shook her head, laughing softly as she took another bite. Evelyn called Lila to her estate, under the pretense of returning a jacket she left behind. But what Lila found was a garden party full of real people, clinic workers, neighbors, even Mr. Hensley, who gave her a wink. Evelyn took the microphone. "Lila Monroe is the only person who ever told me the truth. Who ever challenged my son. Who ever made me see what love really looks like. And I'd be honored to welcome her into this family, if she'll forgive an old woman who got far too carried away." Lila was speechless. "Also," Evelyn added, "I'm hiring you as the director of our new community outreach center. You'll have full control. And yes, I cleared it with the board." The crowd clapped. Julian smiled. And Lila finally exhaled. "Evelyn," Lila began, her voice thin with disbelief. "This is a lot." The crowd laughed gently, and Evelyn just smiled with the patience of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "I thought I was just getting my jacket back," Lila continued, warming to the moment. "But apparently, I'm also getting a job, an apology, and," she paused, eyes locking with Evelyn's, "a second chance." Applause broke again, more robust this time. Julian took a step forward, offering his hand. Lila took it without hesitation. As the party began to move around them, conversations picking up, music starting again, and someone setting out dessert trays, Julian leaned in. "She means it, you know," he said. "Every word." Lila glanced at Evelyn, who was now deep in conversation with a young clinic volunteer, her posture relaxed, her laugh genuine. A different woman than the one who once orchestrated so much from behind the curtain. "I believe her," Lila said. "And I think I'm ready to believe in this too." Julian looked at her, a soft smirk playing on his lips. "You mean us?" Lila shrugged, teasing. "I meant the job. But sure. Maybe us too." He laughed, pulling her closer as a slow song drifted from the speakers. "Then let's start dancing before you change your mind." They swayed beneath the twinkle lights, surrounded by people who'd once been strangers, now allies, co-workers, even friends. And though Lila hadn't come looking for anything more than every morning, she met with clinic staff, brainstorming ideas for new programs, organizing volunteers, and figuring out how to best serve the community. The work was fulfilling, but it was also exhausting. She'd been doing her best to navigate her new role while adjusting to the unexpected dynamics of a relationship with Julian and the ever-complicated history with Evelyn. And then there was the board. The high-powered, coldly professional board of directors that Evelyn had mentioned. They'd been quiet during the first few meetings, mostly observing and rarely offering feedback. But Lila knew their time would come. And when it did, she'd be ready. "Lila!" came a voice from the doorway one morning. It was Margaret, one of the clinic workers who helped coordinate the volunteer schedules. "There's someone here to see you. Looks like trouble." Lila raised an eyebrow. "Trouble? Send them in." Margaret led in a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of a high-end fashion magazine's sharp features, a tailored suit, and heels that clicked ominously against the tile floor. "Lila Monroe." The woman extended a hand, her eyes scanning the room with a professional coolness. "I'm Vanessa Marks, from the board." Lila shook her hand, trying to mask her surprise. She had expected one of the older members, perhaps someone more familiar with the inner workings of the organization. Not this polished, sleek stranger. "Vanessa, of course," Lila replied. "What can I do for you?" Vanessa's lips curled into a thin smile. "I think you and I need to talk about your future here, Lila. You've made quite the impression on Evelyn, but I'm not so sure you understand the scope of the responsibilities you've taken on." Lila's instincts immediately went on alert, but she kept her tone even. "I'm well aware of what's at stake. But I've got the backing of Evelyn, and more importantly, the community. We're making a difference." Vanessa's smile didn't falter, but there was an edge to it now. "Is that so? I'm afraid the board might have a different perspective. We've heard some concerns about the direction the center is taking. You've made some unorthodox choices." Lila could feel her pulse quicken, but she remained calm. "The center is doing well. I'm making decisions that benefit the people we're here to serve." "I'm sure you believe that." Vanessa's gaze sharpened. "But the truth is, the board has a very specific vision for how things should be run. And I think you might be stepping outside of that. You'll need to adjust your approach if you want to continue in this role." Lila took a breath, the challenge clear in Vanessa's tone. This was her first real test as director, and it wouldn't be an easy one. "I'll make sure I stay aligned with the board's goals," Lila said, keeping her voice steady. "But I won't compromise on the needs of the community. Not now, not ever." Vanessa didn't say anything for a moment, simply studying Lila's face as if weighing her words. Finally, she nodded, a hint of approval in her expression. "We'll see if you can hold on to that conviction, Lila. Don't forget, the board is always watching." And with that, she turned and left, her heels clicking in the hallway until the door swung shut. Lila exhaled sharply, her hands gripping the back of her chair. She wasn't sure if she had passed the test or if Vanessa had just set her up for a bigger challenge, but one thing was clear, the stakes were higher than ever. She wasn't just managing a community center anymore, she was fighting for her place in a world that didn't always understand her vision. Julian and Lila didn't have a royal wedding. They got married at the community center with plastic chairs and dollar store streamers, and Evelyn made peace with it. In fact, she made sure the local bakery delivered 200 cupcakes in the shape of little gold hearts. Mr. Hensley walked her down the aisle. Caleb danced until he passed out. And Lila, in a simple lace dress, whispered to Julian as they shared their first dance. "I still can't believe your mom was my housekeeper." Married life for Julian and Lila was, well, not exactly ordinary. Julian was adjusting to waking up before 10 a.m., making his own coffee, with mixed results, and grocery shopping for the first time in his life. Lila, on the other hand, was trying to balance her work as the new director of community outreach while navigating the surreal world of billionaire functions, gala events, and absurd wife of a CEO expectations. She quickly realized there were more forks at a Lancaster dinner table than in the clinic's entire kitchen. And while Evelyn was now their biggest cheerleader, her involvement could be intense. Like the time she hired a PR firm to rebrand Lila as a philanthropic fashionista. Lila politely declined. Julian wasn't so polite. Meanwhile, Mr. Hensley and Evelyn had entered the will-won't-they phase of their courtship. He brought her fresh roses every Friday. She pretended she was far too busy for romance while secretly Googling retirement vacations for two. Just when things began to settle, she walked in. Genevieve Armitage, Julian's former fiancée. Gorgeous, elegant, and sharper than a diamond heel. She breezed into the annual Lancaster Gala like a storm in silk, declaring she was back from Monaco and so thrilled to reconnect. Julian was polite. Lila was not. At dinner, Genevieve leaned across the table. "It's adorable, really. You a nurse, and Julian. Like something out of a Hallmark movie." Lila took a slow sip of her wine. "And yet, you're the one watching it from the sidelines." Mike. Drop. But Genevieve wasn't done. She hinted at business threats, scandalous secrets, and a hostile takeover of one of the Lancaster subsidiaries. Julian waved it off, but Lila saw something in his eyes. Concern. As the pressure mounted, Lila and Julian began to clash not over love, but over trust. Julian was hiding something. Working late. Secret meetings. Mood swings. He claimed it was business stuff, but Lila wasn't buying it. "I married you, Julian. Not the Lancaster Corporation," she said one night, arms folded, voice quiet. Julian looked exhausted. "I know. And I'm trying to protect you from all this. From her. From what's coming." But what was coming? Meanwhile, Evelyn had begun her own investigation. She might have been retired, but she didn't get where she was by playing nice. She called in a favor. Actually, 3. And what she found chilled her. Genevieve wasn't just back to rekindle an old flame. She was back to burn it all down. The next gala wasn't a party, it was a battlefield. Lila arrived alone. Julian was already inside, looking grim. Genevieve, draped in crimson, had gathered board members, investors, and media. She was unveiling a new project, one suspiciously similar to Julian's latest pitch. She had insider documents, private memos, even a signed NDA. It was sabotage. But from inside the company, Julian was about to be ousted. That's when Evelyn stood up, mic in hand, fire in her voice. "This family has stood for integrity. And if you think we're going down without a fight, Miss Armitage, then you clearly forgot who you were dealing with." Behind her, Mr. Hensley flipped open a laptop. The projector screen lit up with Genevieve's real emails. Her bribes. Her backdoor deals. Courtesy of an anonymous whistleblower, who turned out to be Lila's old friend from nursing school now working in legal. Q. Gasps, outrage, security escorting Genevieve out. Julian turned to Lila, eyes wide. "Was that your doing?" She shrugged. "You were busy. I had time." Evelyn finally let herself enjoy Mr. Hensley's attention. They traveled to Tuscany, sent postcards, adopted a dog. Caleb started high school. Julian taught him how to drive. Lila taught him how not to curse in front of the principal. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, when Julian would burn toast or forget laundry detergent, Lila would kiss him on the cheek and whisper, "You're still lucky your mom pretended to be a housekeeper."